The massive red letters of America's Got Talent glowed across the stage, and the murmur of thousands of expectant audience members filled the air like static electricity. A hush fell as Terry Crews' familiar voice boomed from backstage. Next up, we have 17-year-old Alara Quinn from Portland, Oregon. A soft round of applause followed. It wasn't enthusiastic, just polite. After all, the show had seen hundreds of teenagers with guitars, keyboards, or violins. The crowd expected another average performance. From behind the thick curtain, a slim girl stepped forward. She looked like a shadow lost in light, pale, with messy brown hair tied in a loose ponytail and a faded green dress that looked handmade. In her hands, she held a violin that had seen better days, cracked near the bridge, one tuning peg held together by tape, and a bow missing several horsehairs. Simon Cowell raised an eyebrow immediately. He whispered something to Sofia Vergara, who chuckled softly. "That violin looks like it's been through a war," Simon muttered. Alara reached the center of the stage, her shoes squeaking slightly against the polished floor. She clutched her violin tight as if it were the only thing tethering her to the world. Heidi Klum gave her a warm smile. "Hi there. What's your name?" "Alara Quinn," she said softly. "And how old are you?" 17. Sophia tilted her head. "And what are you going to do for us today?" Alara hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the violin neck. "I'm going to play, and tell a story." Simon squinted. "Play and tell a story?" "Yes," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "It's a story about sound and silence." The judges exchanged uncertain glances. Simon leaned forward, sighing. "All right, Alara. The stage is yours. Surprise us." The lights dimmed. A single spotlight glowed down on her like a moonbeam through fog. Alara raised the bow. For a moment, nothing happened. The audience shifted in their seats, whispering. One person coughed. Then, the first note rang out. It wasn't perfect, it cracked slightly, but there was something raw and haunting in it. The sound wavered between beauty and brokenness, like a bird with one wing trying to fly. The melody that followed wasn't classical, pop, or jazz. It was something else entirely, part lullaby, part lament. Each stroke of the bow told a story. Between passages, Alara spoke softly into the microphone clipped to her dress. "This violin belonged to my mom," she said between phrases, her voice trembling as the notes wept beneath her words. "She taught me to play before she lost her hearing." The audience stilled. "She used to say that music isn't about sound, it's about feeling." Her bow danced again, coaxing fragile, trembling notes from the damaged instrument. "And when she couldn't hear me play anymore, she'd rest her hand on the wood and say she could feel the song inside." The melody swelled, aching, tender, and desperate. Simon leaned back, his expression unreadable. Sophia's eyes began to glisten. Alara closed her eyes and whispered, "This is the last song I ever played for her, before the accident." A low gasp rippled through the crowd. The lights behind her shifted. Faint silhouettes of fluttering white lights filled the screen, resembling falling petals or fragments of memory. Her bow moved faster now, trembling with emotion. The broken violin screamed and sang at once, its imperfections amplifying the pain and beauty in every note. And then, suddenly, the string snapped. The audience gasped audibly. The sound cut through the theater like a whip. Alara froze, mid-motion. For a second, it looked like the performance was over. Simon's brows furrowed, Sophia's hands covered her mouth. But Alara didn't stop. Instead, she dropped the bow and began to pluck the remaining strings, each note sharp and deliberate. The melody continued, reshaped but alive. Her voice rose softly above the broken music. "She told me once that even when everything is shattered, you can still make something beautiful." The plucking slowed, and with one final trembling note, she ended. Silence. A heavy, absolute silence filled the theater. No one moved. No one breathed. Then, a single clap, then another, and within seconds, the entire crowd erupted into a standing ovation. Sophia wiped her eyes. That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard." Heidi nodded. "It felt like every note was alive." Howie leaned forward. "You took a broken instrument and made it sound like it had a soul." Simon looked at her, his expression softer than usual. "Alara," he said slowly, "I've been on this show for years. I've seen thousands of people walk on this stage. But what you just did, it wasn't just talent. It was truth." Alara smiled faintly, eyes shimmering under the spotlight. Thank you, she whispered. Simon raised his hand. I don't say this lightly. And then he slammed his hand down. The golden buzzer. Gold confetti exploded around her. The crowd screamed. Terry Crews ran on stage, hugging her as tears streamed down her face. Her broken violin hung at her side, cracked, dusty, but glowing in the golden rain. Backstage, hours later, the chaos had died down. The stagehands were cleaning up confetti, and the last echoes of applause had faded into the night. Alara sat in the quiet dressing room, staring at the violin case on her lap. The cracked instrument rested inside, fragile and irreplaceable. A knock came at the door. Come in, she said softly. Simon Cowell stepped inside, not with his usual swagger, but quietly, respectfully. He held 2 cups of tea. Thought you might want one, he said. Alara smiled shyly. Thank you. He sat opposite her. You know, I've seen a lot of acts, big voices, dangerous stunts, illusions, but what you did tonight, he shook his head. It was something else entirely. Alara looked down. I didn't think anyone would understand. I think everyone did, Simon said gently. You made silence louder than sound. She smiled faintly. That's what my mom used to say. He nodded slowly, taking a sip of his tea. She must have been proud. Alara hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. She never got to see me play tonight. Simon tilted his head. What do you mean? Alara reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, folded photograph. She handed it to him. It showed a woman with kind eyes and a smile, holding a violin that looked eerily similar to Alara's. But behind her, in the photo's background, was a hospital bed. Simon frowned. Alara nodded. She'd passed away 2 years ago. A car accident. I was in the car too. That's how the violin got cracked. A deep silence filled the room. She continued, her voice steady but soft. When I woke up in the hospital, I couldn't move my right hand. The doctors said I might never play again. But I had this dream. Mom was sitting by my bed, holding the violin. She said, music doesn't live in your hands, Alara. It lives in your heart. Her eyes shone. So, I started again. Slowly. 1 note at a time. Simon swallowed hard. And the story about her losing her hearing. Alara smiled faintly. That part was true too. She started losing her hearing when I was 12. By the time I was 15, she couldn't hear me play anymore. Simon looked at the violin, its scars illuminated under the dressing room light. You know, most people would have thrown it away. I couldn't, Alara said simply. It still sings. You just have to listen differently. Simon stood slowly. His voice quieter now. I think the world needs to hear more of you. Alara blinked back tears. Thank you, Simon. He smiled, a rare, genuine smile, and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Don't thank me. Just promise me one thing. What's that? When you play in the finals, bring that violin. 2 months later, finals night. The theater was packed again. Millions were watching live around the world. The stage glowed with deep blue lights as Alara stepped out once more. Same violin, same dress, though now repaired with gold resin along the cracks. Simon had personally arranged for a special artist in Japan to restore it using kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold, symbolizing that scars can be beautiful. The violin gleamed under the light like a relic of resilience. The music began softly. But this time, Alara wasn't alone. A massive LED screen behind her displayed silent video clips, of mothers and daughters signing, laughing, holding hands. Her melody rose again, familiar yet reborn. The brokenness of the first song was gone, in its place was something radiant. As she played, her mother's voice, recorded from an old home video, echoed through the theater. Greater than, music isn't just sound. It's love, carried through time. The audience was weeping openly now. When the final note faded, Alara lifted her bow skyward, tears streaming down her face. Silence fell again, pure and sacred. Then came the roar. Simon stood, hands clasped, tears glimmering in his eyes. That is what this show is all about. Sophia turned to him, whispering, "Do you think she'll win?" Simon smiled faintly. She already did. Months later, a small video went viral, not from the show, but from Alara's YouTube channel. It was titled, "For Mom, the Broken Violin Lives On." In the video, Alara sat in her room, playing that same instrument. But beside her was a small wooden box, open, revealing a hearing aid and a silver locket. As she played, she whispered, "Greater than, this isn't the sound of a perfect violin. It's the sound of a heart that refused to stay silent." The video reached over 100 million views. And under the top comment, written by Simon Cowell himself, were just 3 words. "I still hear it."